Alrighty, on here. Felt like coming back on. Tonight is Saturday, November the 19th, and going to talk about some numerology tonight. Going to talk about my upcoming online course, as I did for the last couple of weeks, which you're going to hear more and more about it. I'm also going to read from my latest book, The Key to Life is Numerology. I'm also going to maybe speak on dreams. So, this is a live chat. Whenever you are ready to come on, you can. We're looking forward to having you visit. And this is your opportunity to be on here live with me. See if I can bring this up. Maybe I have too many words here. Probably do. So uh, I'm going to be talking, chit chatting, and moving this into reality. Oh, yeah, I am over. Yeah, so I'm here to give you a little rundown tonight of things, and I hope that it all makes sense to anybody that shows on tonight. And of course, you can come in at any time. All right, so here we go. Yes, welcome to Circle Grace One. I'm your host, podcast vlog guy, creator brother Francis E. Revels-Bey. I'm the founder of the Circle Grace One that was originally established in July of 1974, fresh out of college. I attended Bard College, upstate New York, Annandale on Hudson, New York. I was an art major, but prior to that time, my mother, who was still alive then, told me that I would wind up in this place called Albuquerque, New Mexico. She told me that in 1979, 2 years before she transitioned. So, henceforth, the Circle of Grace One is named after her. She's the first grace of my life, the first person that taught me how grace shows up in your life, and also taught me uh, in her own way about metaphysics and spirituality. She was a member of the Rosicrucians, just not by way of a magazine, but an actual group that worked out of a lodge, uh, Masonic, or actually, yeah, they worked out of a Masonic lodge in Westbury, Long Island, New York. And I remember she used to go in, but since I wasn't a member, I really didn't have a clue. I would just sit outside the car. Um, Sometimes I wish I had gone in. I could have sat in their library or something while they were having their meetings. She was also a member of the group Astara, Astara, which is based in um, California, and the Rosicrucians was based in San Jose, California, back in the day. I don't know if they're still seated there, but they were. And of course, they used to have a lot of things that they would have trips. They would go over to Egypt and explore the pyramids and many of the old ruins of the cities. They would actually travel around the world. My mother didn't have a chance to do that because she was married to my father and they had their own business, so they didn't have time to like travel. My father, I understood, was a third degree Mason, but he wasn't that deep in. Nonetheless, he participated on some level in Masonry, and I believed Prince Hall Masons. So this is something that he was a part of, and this was something that he was involved in as well. Many of our family members have been a part of some type of group somewhere, and this is something that all groups have always um, been out and about uh, doing what they do. So it's been an awesome find that we're as a people, and I mean everybody, we are moving toward finding ways to elevate ourselves spiritually and find ourselves on our path of self discovery. I myself have been doing numerology for some time, and I was always interested in art. That was my first and foremost thing that I had a connection to, was to study art, and I still do drawings. This is a part of my painting over here, and above me, you don't really see it. If I angle this back, that is a 16 by 20 called Jimmy on Fire, done in acrylic. And of course, partially you see a painting there of a jazz bassist playing an upright bass, and that's another 16 by 20. Well, in any event, I enjoy drawing, painting. I use colored pencils now. Well, anyway, during my time in college, I had, um, I got to college by way of what I thought was a dream at age 8, which my mother later explained was a vision. And I talked about it in one of my books, my very first book, called Dancing in the Light of Divine Grace. And in that book, I talked about how spirituality, metaphysics in its own way, was following me. I was somehow always being, quote unquote, directed or redirected into a certain path. So I was always studying something in college, um, which the dream was about, the college I would go to and eventually graduate from. Yes, I was an art major there. It was called BARD, BARD College, a private, small liberal arts college, which is pretty much known in the private college and university sectors around the world, but especially uh, when it comes to uh, Hudson area of New York, mid Hudson areas, they call it, around the Hudson River. So it always attracted its people, and now it's worldwide. So, as an art major there, I also had the opportunity to enlighten myself from A to Z on things like Zen and Buddhism and a little bit of astrology, took Tai Chi classes. I started out in Taekwondo classes, came home my sophomore year and was doing Shotokan out on Long Island, and I would try to mix the two. One of my female friends, she dated a guy who was doing Nisei Goju, and I was being exposed to that. Now, I wasn't a point fighter, I wasn't a physical fighter. I was just trying to find a way to find out about me. Tai Chi seemed to click in my senior year, and it's been around me still. I don't practice Tai Chi like I should, but I still go by the philosophy of Tai Chi Chuan. So, and occasionally I'll wake up in the morning and go through some Tai Chi exercises or a little bit of Qigong exercises. But I um, had acquired an interest in studying the fields of metaphysics and spirituality. We didn't use those terms at that time. We were just talking about being psychic or being empathic or dreams, being able to read palms. Um, I came into things like that. Regular playing cards wasn't big for me. I needed images. So I started drifting toward Tarot in 1979. But I began my studies mainly in 1971, delving into meditation. And this is while I was a sophomore, junior, and a senior in college. And I said, progressing into Tai Chi, when didn't realize you weren't just doing exercises slowly for coordination. Later, you'd be able to speed them up. But I found that slow movement as a form of meditation. And I used to refer to Tai Chi as meditation in motion, because you're doing everything slowly. You're watching your own hands, body movement, transition of your weight, front to back, leg, foot, and so on. Um, I used to study the teachings of Lao Tzu, Chuang Tzu. Uh, Lao Tzu was the going into the I Ching a little bit and going along that route, um, studying the works of Alan Watts. What is this from A to Z? Uh, Having an opportunity to sit in Zen halls when I was younger, visiting them just to see what it was like, whether it was in New York City or upstate New York, uh, studying yoga, hatha yoga. Maybe I thought I was supposed to be there. Tried to understand foot reflexology, hand reflexology, iridology. Iridology is where you study the iris, the patterns of the iris, and you could tell, like a clock, which part of the body, which organ, right and left, was in a distressful situation. So there's a lot of things I was exposed to that I went out and diligently dove into to try to understand. This is how I came across Lloyd Strayhorn, my older brother, and I. At the time, we were part of the Moorish Science Temple, and there was a temple in Queens that we used to attend. And then Wednesday night was business meetings. But after Wednesday night, I was with my brother, and he would drive up to Harlem, and we walk into the old Tree of Life bookstore on West 125th Street and Lenox Avenue in Harlem, which was affectionately called the University at the corner of Lenox Avenue. So in Harlem had its own UCLA, and many people came through there. Dick Gregory with his Bohemian Diet. Um, there was a guy, I can't remember his last name, but he wrote a book called Survival in the 21st Century. And he was talking about, changing your diet and whether you go in these different uh, reasons or realms to change your diet and to change how you ate. Even though it was well too soon for me, I wasn't eating correctly back then. I still have a long way to go now. But a lot of people. There was a guy who had passed on in August of 1988, but he worked with the guy who owned the store. The man who owned the store was known to us as Kanya Kakumba. That's the name he chose. Um, I think his real name was Stanley McGee. Perhaps I think I can't remember right now, but I'll just say we knew him as Kanya, and Kanya had all these books. He was actually a investor, a stockbroker, who took all these books that he had gathered along the way, and he opened up the Tree of Life bookstore, where the teenagers and the youth in that area, before they go home, they could come in there and do their homework there and have access to all of these books. And so he would have couches and chairs and excuse me, tables in there, and people could sit down. Peace, Rose Jefferson, and people could sit down and read the books. And this was something that was pretty big in Manhattan, which I really liked. All of these bookstores, you could go into them, and they would have a section where they have many of the books as samples, and you could pull the samples off the book, off the rack, and sit down and read the book. Then, if you really like the book, you go over to the other side of the store and find it where it was already sealed up, and you purchase the book. So a lot of people were coming into the Tree of Life bookstore, and they had this section open up to the community. So it was sort of like a bookstore slash library. And they had that thing open 7 days a week, literally from about 10 o'clock in the morning all the way up to about 11 o'clock at night. I remember at one point there was a homeless couple, and they were very spiritual. The wife stitched kufis, very colorful uh, kufis and scarves, and she also stitched up material to make dashikis. And I don't know where they lived, but Kanya allowed them to spend the night in his store. So he had it was an old store in the corner, and it was a several rooms in the back, and he would let them stay there so they wouldn't have to be in the street, especially when the winter time came. Who's going to live in the street in the cold winter? He would allow them to stay there. And the beautiful thing about it, they could read people, give you a psychic reading, intuitive reading, a palm reading, and they charge you no more than about $1 or two, $2, $5. That's how they made their money. There was many people there. It was a great time, a great experience, and this is from the late '60s all the way up to they remained around for I think over 20 years, and it slightly started to dissolve around the early '80s, and then the Harlem State Office building uh, down at the other end. Lenox Avenue was like Sixth Avenue uptown. So, and downtown further, Lenox Avenue was right there in Harlem, but on either end, further up or further down, was called Sixth Avenue. So, at Seventh Avenue and West 125th Street was the Harlem State Office building. And eventually, some of the practitioners rented a floor together. Kanye basically stuck it out until the city kind of closed him up. He had that whole building for like $1 a year, but eventually the city pushed him out, and many of the people went into the Harlem State Office building and had a lot of their offices set up. There was a guy, I believe he was from either Barbados or from Jamaica. He's not around anymore. He was a holistic doctor. His name was Walday Kite. Wolde, his first name, and Kite, Kyte. He lived in Brooklyn and he did his practices there. Many of you have heard of, she's world renowned now, Queen Afua. Queen Afua lived right there in Harlem or lived up in the Bronx, and she got into yoga, and then eventually she got into this path of the sacred woman, and finally she did those 21-day fasts with women, and that was way back in the '80s and the early '90s, and then things took off, and here she is today, just brightening up the sky with so many people coming to her, and her son helping her out. Then there's Phil Valentine. He's done his work as well, and I think he and Queen Afua had a connection at one time together. I remember meeting them together, so I'll just say I believe they had a connection, family kind of connection. But even Dr. Phil, he's been out there doing a lot of things. Hank Risen's son is the last name he uses. He's another brother out of Brooklyn, and he talks about orgone, materials and necklaces and things. He's come a long way. There was a guy who called himself, who's still around, Lester Loving. And Lester made pyramids out of press boards, and he was really into the science of pyramids. He would rent out a room on the fourth or fifth floor of some New York City building on the weekend, and he'd be in there making these open face pyramids. And he did them so well that he would go back to Detroit, Michigan. He would go to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he would set up some of these structures in metal with the exact angles and go back and take pictures. When it snowed, you didn't see any snow inside the open face pyramid, but all the snow was on the outside. So these people were very powerful. And today he's still around. I'm not sure if he's living in New York City or if he's living in Connecticut, but he's still operating. So many of us who had come through the Tree of Life bookstore, that's how I met Lloyd Strayhorn. I was looking for a numerology buddy. I had a feeling you'd be on here, sister at it. Some said, come back on here and see if she finds you. And so, I going into the Tree of Life bookstore. Let me have some water. Going into the Tree of Life bookstore, my brother and I, and then I started going and hanging out on Saturdays. And one time I walked in, this was in 1978. Now I had commenced in studying numerology in 1974, straight out of college. Living with one of my mother's younger brothers in Plainfield, South Plainfield, New Jersey, and he would go to one of these farmer markets on Saturdays to get his seafood because he loved to cook. In fact, all my mother's brothers and sisters could cook, but the brothers, they could cook. Them guys could cook, man, anything. And went with him, and I saw this guy had a table set up with some old books. That's how I discovered numerology. Uh, I came across an astrology book, too heavy for me, too deep for me. And I got this book for $5. It was an unabridged book. It was thick and big and heavy. Got it for $5. Didn't return it. Came back several weeks later with my uncle. And the guy said, well, how did you like the astrology book? I said, man, it doesn't speak to me. So I forged the table. And he gave me a deal. He said, take any 5 books for $4 and any 8 books for so much. In fact, he said, leave here with 10 books. I'll give you a price. They're all used books. I ran across Ken Quinn Avery's book um, on numerology, the hidden meaning of numbers, something like that. And that book used the Chaldean system. It didn't use the modern. It used the Chaldean system of numerology or Chaldean alphabet. And basically, I fell in love with it. I said, this is me. I walked out with that book. I bought a little white book. Couldn't have been no bigger than this, about that size and about that thick. And the book was called Kiro's Book of Numbers. That book used the Chaldean alphabet. I said, this thing called the Chaldean alphabet seems to be pretty accurate. I got both of those books for like 75 cents. And I did walk out with 10 books. I couldn't have paid no more than $6 and change. And every book I had was either meditation or it was numerology or it dealt with dreams or it dealt with palmistry. And so that's how I began studying what I have within me now. And as time went on, I was able to take classes here or there. But eventually, like I said, I was already studying numerology for 4 years. And then I decided one day, I need a buddy. I need a numerology buddy. So, you know how you go in the papers and you look for, what do they call it? Pen pals. And I would write in there, I'm into numerology. I'm looking for a pen pal, a numerology brother. I don't care what level you're on. I want to connect and see if we can trade some ideas. Well, I did that for a while. That didn't work. But I kept going to the Tree of Life bookstore, and I finally spoke to this brother who was referred to as the hobo herbologist, and that was affectionately known as Dr. John E. Moore. There are some slight videotapes that someone has put together where he's walking around New York City in Harlem and he's talking about the watermelon and he's talking about these different herbs that are right there in the street. Just look up Dr. John E. Moore, hobo herbologist. I don't remember who the person is, but it's here on YouTube and they have him on it and you'll see him talking. He's Capricorn. I think he's born January the 3rd. And he said, look on that table right there toward the entrance and look up our brother Lloyd Strayhorn. That's what he said. Look up Strayhorn. Look, and I found it. And I found it to be interesting because he had a 7 on the page. And I said to myself, he's got to be a number 7 person, either life path number or name or date of birth. But I like the way this thing is set up. And I called Lloyd and we connected. Uh, Finally, we got together on a Saturday, which happened to be December the 7th of 1978. And I took everything except for the weekend of Christmas and New Year's, but I took these crash course, I would say, 4 weeks roughly. And I learned from him the pinnacles and challenges and a few little tidbits. But basically, according to Lloyd, I had it because I used to walk in with a bag full of files. And he said, "What you got in that bag?" And I show him. These are things, handwritten charts I'm working on. He said, "You write these by hand? You don't type?" I said, "No, I don't type that fast. I just make sure I print very clearly and that's it." And so he said, "Really?" So he gave me a test. He took one of his clients that he knew by name and date of birth and told me to write about it, write about the person. That was my test, I guess, sort of like my graduation. And I sat down and I worked out the name using the modern and I believe maybe the Chaldean. But I had the birth date down pat. I talked about the vowel expression, which is the soul urge, the personality, the consonants, the first name, it's the key name, the entire name, missing numbers, what was the lesson that the person had to learn as long as they carried that name, what were their strong traits, that's the numbers that are repeated a lot. And it just went on and on and on and on and on. Gave it to him. He sifted through it and says, "Come here." Marched me over to Kanya. And he said, "Kanya, I just found somebody that could teach the beginner's numerology for summer 1979, and I can go on and teach intermediate and advanced." Met Kanya, we set it up. I had the third largest class that summer. Lloyd had the first largest class, and there was a gentleman by the name of John Harris, Jon Harris. He's no longer with us. He passed away many years ago, and he was an astrologer. We had the three biggest classes, and I was able to replicate the class, I think, two more times, teaching for about 8 weeks on the basics of numerology. Back in the day, you took a class at the Tree of Life bookstore, you only paid $3 per class. So if you took a herbology class with Dr. John E. Moore, the hobo herbologist, he had more students in there from Columbia University, NYU, Hunter College, Pace University up in the Bronx, Fordham. They all came down. These are pre-med people, pre-med students coming down, taking a herbology class with him. And he would take you on a walk. One time we took a bus ride. Lloyd, myself, him. I don't know if Queen of Fool was there at the time, but a lot of us we were doing readings in the Wyckoff Park in Wyckoff, New Jersey. And he walked us around and identified all these plants. And to show how good Dr. Moore was, there was a woman that got stung by a bee. And her son and daughter was with her. And they said, "Mommy got stung by a bee and she's allergic to bee stings." Dr. Moore went into action. He's looking and he's looking and he's looking. He said, "Anybody got any water?" He said, "We'll reimburse your water back at the park." There's water. He cleaned off the leaves. He dusted it off. He had some paper towels. He was like almost literally prepared. He told her, "Give me your finger." They could see where the splint was. He had some gauze on him or something, and he wrapped it with this plant leaf. I don't remember the name of the plant leaf, but he wrapped the finger. He said, "Walk her back. You're going to walk about 50 yards around, 25 here, 25 here. You be in the back. You can lay her on the ground, but if better yet, lay her on the picnic table so that she could really sink into the rest. And I'll be right back. Give me about 30 minutes." Walk back, got back, took the splinter out. The swelling went down by the end of the day. That's Dr. John E. Moore, hobo herbologist. So there was a lot of people there in the day, and we were doing a lot of things. As I say, that's where I met Lloyd in 1978. Later, when he put together his Numbers and You newsletter, it used to be a real big paper newsletter. And eventually, he invited me as one of his students to be a guest writer. Then he went to WLIB radio station on the east side, I think between on 40th Street. The building was called the Crystal Building, which I thought was very interesting. And there he was in the radio station. Ran into a lot of people. Um, I mean, we ran into a lot. Adam Clayton Powell family, some member of that family was in there on radio. Ran into Percy Sutton, of course, he was the president of inner city broadcasting. Ran into Reverend Al Sharpton up in there, and some of the noted singers and things. And what's that guy Crocker? Used to have his. He was a DJ then. It was so amazing that when we were there, excuse me, when we were there, you had this opportunity to meet so many people. Have an itchy nose today, but we met so many different people, and it was a glorious opportunity. When Lloyd would have his live show Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, he only got a 15-minute show. But that 15-minute live show proved to be something. He would come on Tuesdays and Thursdays with pre recorded shows. Then he graduated in no time from a 15-minute show to a half-hour show, and then finally an hour show. Lloyd made me his very first guest on Friday, I believe it was October the 2nd of 1982. Everything took off, and before I know it, over in 7 years of him being with WLIB, I was his most popular guest with 24 guest appearances. That's a lot. Some of those guest appearances, two of them, I call myself surprising him one day. Went in, there was a lot of people in the lobby area when you step off the elevator. You know, Reverend Al he was just on radio. Hey, Brother Francis, how you doing? I'm speaking to him, and then we go wait. And the secretary says, are you on with Lloyd today? I says, no, actually, it's surprising Lloyd. Just tell him there's a package for him out here when he gets a break. So, okay. So she calls back. Says, Lloyd, there's a package for you out here. Lloyd comes out. And now here's the thing. Lloyd would be wearing a blue shirt, a purple tie. I had a tie that was striped with purple and silver. We look like twins. And roll up in there. And we're talking. And he says, yeah, I'm glad you visited. Come on in. Take me right into the studio. I would sit right opposite him. And, Larry Hardestry, who he had his own show after a while. He was an engineer, and he'd be in there. And next thing you know, Larry come out, put a headset on. So I guess, okay, I can hear the radio show. You can hear how it goes out. They surprised me. They threw me on the air, Lloyd. So this is, how we got to do things, clowning around. Been a beautiful, it's been quite a beautiful journey. Well, many of you know that I'm teaching. You want to share this out, you can this evening. Take a screenshot if you have to. I am on here tonight. I started at about 10 o'clock. And I am coming up soon on February the 1st, which is a Wednesday, 2023, doing a live 12 plus week numerology course. And I say 12 plus week, but when I actually worked it out, it's 18 weeks. That's pretty much like a college semester. It's going to be on a Wednesday, February the 1st. That's when I'm going to kick it off. And it's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, you're going to have not just 12, But what actually happens is 11 paid classes and 7 free classes. 11 paid classes within this course and 7 free classes. Those free classes are reviews of certain classes taught within the course. At the end, you will receive some PDF documents or small ebooks connected to numerology that I put together. Also, I'm going to videotape these classes for myself, but all who apply as students, paid students, they will get a summarized video of all of the 18 classes within this course. There will be an early bird fee. Registration for that begins January the 2nd and ends on January the 18th. Then there's the standard fee, which begins on January the 19th and ends on February the 19th. So anybody that misses the early bird special, where you save $103 and you have to enroll at the higher amount, you get 4 weeks to pay it off, and all you have to do is give me a deposit of about $100, and that locks you into the class. You don't lose your seat. You're going to be on a live Zoom call, video Zoom call with me. I may make a document presentation for it. I don't know yet, but you'll have a guide of the classes that I'll be teaching. And if you have the book, then you have something to go by as further reference, which means you could study ahead of time. So in all these classes, like class number 1 is going to be about what is numerology. We're going to understand that numerology is not some fake pseudosciences that some people would like to have many of us think. We're going to delve into numerology, and we're going to see how numerology is around the world. That's your very first class. Second class, we will get into the alphabet system. And let me see, I have even a basic worksheet here myself. We will be able to take a look at in your second class. On the first, you'll do what is numerology. That's February the 1st. Then on February the 8th, class number 2 will be meditation, meanings of numbers 0 through 9. You're going to get that. Then the third week, February the 15th, you're going to get class number 3, and I'm going to talk about your names and date of births, value, frequency found, and we're going to look at the modern numerology alphabet. And if we have time, I'll throw in a little bit about the Chaldean, but you'll get into the Chaldean a little later down this course, of classes. So one of your classes will talk about, as we give an overall review of the first 5 or 6 classes, especially when we're talking about the name, because the first part of the course delves into how to interpret, analyze numbers and names. And so you're going to be able to not only see other names I'll throw out there, and if you have the book, you'll see all the names here worked out with the modern numerology alphabet and then worked out with the Chaldean alphabet. And the reason why I'm presenting both alphabets to you is so that you have a preference. Some most of us use the modern. Why? Because it's easy to see the value of the letters with the numbers, because all you got to do is write 1 through 9 on the top of your page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then write out the alphabet right underneath. So it's easy to remember. However, when you're using the Chaldean, the first 5 letters are similar to the modern, and then they switch up a little bit. But it's the modern Chaldean alphabet. In the old one, they use diphthongs. That means there'll be double letters, double consonants first, like a CH and a TH, and those have a different value. PH, those have a different value. But a more modern style of it, and I don't know who really put together the modern method of the Chaldean system, but it works. It definitely works. The only difference between the two is the modern Pythagorean system is a base 10 system using the numbers 1 through 9. And the Chaldean system is a base 9 system using the numbers 1 through 8. And there's a way in which you could see those numbers on the scale. So you have that to work with. So we'll be working out names. We'll take some celebrity first names or first and last names. But most of all, we'll be looking at your name. So each student will have a chance to analyze their name and their date of birth throughout this course, which means you can look at people in your family, family members, your spouse, son, daughter, aunt, uncle, mother, father, grandparents. You even look at the fur babies in your house, cat and dog. You can check their names out and watch. Their names by numbers will detect their personality. So you'll be able to see distinctively how everybody is interacting with each other. So one of the things I'm going to touch on in this course, or I may have it in the course. If not, I'm going to read you a little bit. Chapter 6 is root compound numbers 10 through 90. Now, these root compound numbers are important because they set up the system of numbers. When you get into the double digit numbers, and I'm talking about the master numbers, 11 and 22 and 33, all the way up to 99. Now, you'll find those master numbers in a person's name or in an address, especially when they go beyond 33. But in traditional numerology, we look at the birth date number that's 11 or 22. And in the current calendar system, there's no 32nd or 33rd day. So you're pushed into comprehending the number 11 and the number 22. Well, the root compound numbers, as they say, they govern the series of numbers with them, such as, again, ages, birth years, and how they might appear in a person's name or a reoccurring number in somebody's life. The zero empowers these sets of compound numbers. So when you see a 10, it's a 1, but it's empowered, it's upgraded because of the zero. Same with the 20, same with the 30, numbers within that range, going all the way up to 90 to 99. So let me just give you a tidbit here. Compound number 10. I'm reading it straight from the book. Good fortune, expansion, ability to create balance between all elements. So when you see that number 10, now if you know somebody who's born on the 10th of any sign in the zodiac, that's their power. One will have better understanding of life through faith and trust in oneself. That's strong about number 10 people. And not rely on others. Number 10 people are very independent. They either need you or don't need you. In most cases, you might need them. Anyone who has this number associated with them will be very independent. This person does not rely on others to help them become successful. That's because a number 10 person can think for themselves. That's something that you want to look at. A number 10 is a self starter, just like the number 1 is. The number 10 is not guessing. The number 10 person is calculating all the time. Now, you know who else calculates? Here's a correspondence. The number 10 symbolically is similar to Capricorn. Capricorn is the 10th sign in the astrological system. A lot of people in that sign calculate all the time. They're looking at everything. They're balancing out things in their mind all the time. They're trying to figure out what's a priority in their life all the time. They're making business decisions, family decisions, personal decisions, and they're trying to weigh all that stuff out. Most cases, they're very clear and they know exactly what they want to do. Now, one, like a 10, is very independent. A person born on the 19th of any given calendar uh, month is also very independent. So you find in the series of the 1, the 10, the 19th, and the 28th, those personalities are very independent. They make up their own mind. They go with what they feel that they think is right for them to do. They might come to you for some advice to get something balanced off, just to make sure they're on the right path. Other than that, they move you aside and they go forward because, in most cases, sometimes they have already made a decision. They just want to get a little bit of validation. Okay, let's take another one. Let's jump around. Let's go over to the compound number 80. Now, here's another hint. When you're using the compound numbers, you can use them to represent, as I say, someone's age. So the compound number 10 may be descriptive of a person who's age 10. Well, check this out. For a person with the compound number 80, right? Their age 80. Think of them as an elder teacher, a healer, and giver. Number 80. The number that is the wisdom guardian. That's a person in their 80s, the wisdom guardian, with freedom over the past and the present. In other words, they don't let themselves get locked down. The new paradigm will be created and set into motion when you hit your 80s. Now, you may hit it earlier. You might do it at age 17, 26, 35. You'll definitely do it on the master age number 44. You'll actually make that shift. 4 plus 4 is 8. 44, 40 comma 4 is 40 is, we have it here. 40 is the number that carries an element of direct purpose, clear intentions, purifying thoughts, feelings, and having a solid memory. You are always ready. So if you're a person who's age 40, and you didn't get that, if you live to be 80, you'll get it. Because what? 80 is twice 40, or 80 is 30 and 50, or 80 is 20 and 60, or 80 is 10 and 70. So you see, you got a lot of ways of dropping into these numbers and understanding what they mean or how you can use them. And that's why I'm teaching this course, to help you kind of free up your mind about the different ways of looking at numbers in your life, numbers attached to your name, your residence. That's another thing. Numbers attached to your residence, place of business, where you work at, your school, your hospital, or medical clinics. These are ways in which we could play with the numbers and get more information. Now, here's something else I've understood through the use of numbers. And this will happen if you are a student of astrology or you're studying metaphysics in general or specifically. Do you know that when you're taking in all this information, this changes? We already know, doctors talk about it, that you grow new neurons, right? New passageways in the brain when you're keeping the brain active. The brain must be like the universe, it must continuously expand and contract. So it must expand, and new data that we put in place does that for us. You might say that if you have a child in your home and you want to increase their mental capacity to learn and to comprehend things, let them play a musical instrument. Let them work at playing symphonic music or more advanced jazz, house music, R&B music, folk music. Caribbean music. Let them explore. Their mind changes, their life changes, the way they see things change, and their whole viewpoint on life changes. All because what? They're working with numbers. See, when you're playing music, you still got to count a beat. You still have to be in attunement, alignment with that beat, with everybody else. You got to be able to identify the note and the structure of a chord. You have to do all of those things. And once you get comfortable with the music that you're playing and the instrument, then you step on where you can start to what? Give a solo. That's the ultimate, where you can truly express yourself, your thoughts and your feelings in music through your voice, through percussion instruments, string instruments, um, wind instruments. You name it, you can do it. It's the same thing that we learn through numerology. You're always thinking, you're always analyzing, you're making comparisons. You do that naturally. So, this course is designed to help anybody who wants to be able to have a better understanding of who they are, a better understanding how they interact with other people within their family structure. This is important. I'm going to take a break here for a moment. If you're liking this information that you're hearing me talk about today, The Key to Life is Numerology, tied to my sixth book under the same title, subscribe. Click that you like it. And be honest. If you don't like the information, then give me a thumbs down, okay? If you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you like what I'm talking about, you think I have some pertinent information for you, your family members, loved ones, co-workers, anybody that you feel that could be uplifted by the information, then subscribe or give them the link and let them come on in and subscribe. Okay, so as I take another sip of water, let me switch up. For those of you who are on right now, do you have any questions about numerology or dreams? I'm going to talk about dreams a little bit. Do you have any questions about dreams or the importance of understanding numerology? And of course, let me say, if you want to take this course, you want to start making those payments in January, you need to email me at iam.circleofgrace with the number one at the end at gmail.com. That's iam dot circle of grace one at gmail.com to get all the additional information of how you can go about paying for this course, whether it's doing the early bird from January 2nd to the 18th and locking yourself in for that, or stepping into the bigger stage because you missed that gate, open the second door at the higher price. You still need to find out how to pay me. And when you have to pay that higher amount, that gives you 4 weeks. So you got from February the 9th, January the 19th through February the 19th. Just make 1/4 of the payment, and then that puts you in the class, and then you work out your balances. Email me at iam.circleofgrace1 at gmail.com, and I should put my email in here so that you know what it is if you're not sure of what it is. Let me take a moment and do that. In the meantime, do you have any questions or comments about numbers in your life? Raise your hand and put in your question. I'm here to answer that for you. If not, do you have also any questions about dreams? Dreams are important. The ancient ones, the shamans or shamans, have said that when you go off to sleep and you dream, often the things that you dream about, you're living right now. It's in the dream world where you can begin to change your life, the patterns and events, the people. You could change how you're going to present yourself to other people. You can work all of that out in the dream world. That's significant to your well being to know that you still have the power to make a change. You do not have to let the collective world mind change you or redirect your patterns, but you can control how you're going to act and speak and make changes in your life. You don't have to be forced to do something that you don't want to do. So you get to be this true metaphysical being with a spiritual light where you know that you don't really die, you just keep evolving. You master the earth plane, you go into other realms and other dimensions. You get a chance to replay those and act on those and begin to master those. So there's a lot that you are capable of doing and allowing yourself to succeed in life here on earth. I always like to look at words embedded in words. So hear, HEAR, here is inside the word earth, and ear, EAR, is inside the word earth, and rate, RATE, is inside that same word. And if you take the letters and change them around, you'll find out that you spell heart. Heart. You just take the H off the end of earth and move it ahead of the letter E, and you have heart. So the earth and the heart beat or come in together, dance together, and you have an opportunity to plant yourself, your mindset, your all of your ideas into something that will impact your immediate environment or impact your immediate neighborhood or beyond. Think of yourself like an astronaut, a marine biologist. You're digging deep to the emotions. You're digging deep into the mind. You're trying to discover what is unique about yourself in relationship to others. We know, like in family settings, we might talk like other family members because we might have the tone embedded into us. We might look like our parents or grandparents or siblings. It happens. Why? Because you're interacting with each other energetically, even if you're not saying anything. Your words come out telepathically. Your feelings are present and they're engaging and they're overlapping. Sometimes they're bumping up against each other, but nonetheless, you're getting that information out and you're able to express yourself. So, since there's no questions about numbers, let me start with dreams. We dream all the time. We don't often remember. I hear that a lot from my TikTok crowd. It says, I go to sleep, but I don't remember anything. Well, sometimes your higher self, that higher aspect of the divinity within you, knows what you need to remember and knows what you don't need to remember. Sometimes things have a heavier weight you don't need to know anything about because it may block you on some level where you then have fear and you don't follow through on your path. So sometimes we have dreams to create balance in our lives, to help us solve different situations, whether it's romantic, marital, whether it's sibling rivalry, whether it's working with coworkers, neighbors, employers, clients. We are constantly working at improving ourselves to be better. And we could work it out in dream world. The dream world is powerful. You know, you go to sleep at night, you wake up, you have a dream. What's so interesting about the dream is you might have several snippets of dreams. Scientists have proven those who studied sleep patterns, those who studied dreams as far back as the 20s and 30s, all over the United States and all over the world, they have come to the understanding that we have an experience called REM, REM. That's rapid eye movement. And that's when your eyelids are flickering and your eyes are darting back and forth underneath as if to gather information. You're in a state of dreams. Animals dream too. You see the paws of a dog or a cat twitch. And you see a dog take a full stride in a dream, chasing something, dreaming in another world, just like you. I'm not sure where this information is coming to me, but I'm quite sure I read something 10 years ago. They said everything that has life, that's organic, can dream. So they were theoretically saying that maybe a plant dreams, insects dream. We know that insects sleep. Sometimes you can go by a small ant, he just never moves. He's not watching you. He's in a state of sleep mode. He's not phased by your presence. He or she is there, sleeping, at rest, and dreaming. So everything does dream. All we're striving to do is remember what the dream was about. That's why I always say to have a dream journal. Because if you have a dream journal, then you can figure out what the heck you're dreaming about. Sometimes we're having dreams because we can't work out things during the daytime. So we go into we're overloaded. So we lay down and we go to sleep, and then the dream, the day, comes up in the nighttime as we dream. Sometimes it happens exactly as it's going on in real life, and other times it's more symbolic. I always tell people if you can't see your hands, well, let's say you can't see your face in a dream unless you saw a reflection. But in most cases, you just look down like you do now. You see your hands, your feet, your body. You try to see behind you. You're in your dream body, so you're limited. But when you're in that lucid body, and that's the one that frees you up, that's the one that allows you to pop out and see yourself sound asleep. See yourself sound asleep. You're outside of the body. You're in the dream world observing things. You begin to see beforehand things that are happening in the dream, and you get a chance to work it out. You get a chance. It's no longer trial by error because you're actually having the experience in the dream world ahead of the physical world. So you keep going into the dream world, and after a while, you get your answers. Then you figure out how to apply the answers, and then in your waking state, you apply them. They're even much higher levels, but that's like in the department of lucid dreaming, you see, because you're outside of your body, and you're looking back and seeing your physical body at rest. These things happen. There are many other things that happen as well. Sometimes you're not dreaming. Sometimes you're in a deeper state of meditation. Meditation is the act of finding your center of being. Being what, though? Being positive, being humble, allowing ourselves this um, golden opportunity to be better than we were yesterday. That's what's so unique about the dream world. We get a chance to figure out what in the heck is going on. Why am I experiencing something over and over and over? How can I change that pattern of behavior or thinking? The dream world is where you can do it. But if you don't have time, or if you can't remember the dream, but you only remember a small part of the dream, that's what you have meditation for. You can meditate deeply and begin to get the information. You can feel at one with the world or yourself or your ancestors and begin to trigger an awareness for yourself. This is essential. You're always striving to become better, striving to be better, And you don't have to wish about being better. You just become better. Why? Because you already know what to do. You're striving to remember what it is that you know what to do. And it happens frequently. Now, sometimes you may not remember the dreams because there's a lot going on in your life, a lot of distractions. So you don't have the time to kind of sit back and, okay, on October the 3rd, I had this dream at 1 a.m. in the morning, and you start to write it out. You may not have all that time to do that. So that's why when you first awaken, as much as you can, try to gather yourself and write something about having a dream. Or maybe it felt like a vision to you. Well, if you have something and it feels like a vision to you, that is because it is. See, you're becoming a visionary by night and activating and elevating yourself into it by day. So you're practicing it and living it, practicing it and living it until you find the measured steps and recipes, formulas, whatever you want to call them, that work best for you. That's the whole idea, you see. Delving into yourself, delving in the do's and the don'ts, wanting to make sure that whatever you're doing suits you well. And if you have a family, it fits them well. All you're striving to do is what? To get better, to be better, to become a better version of yourself. That's what you're striving to do. So, again, I'm going to ask, are there any questions, any comments? Leave them here. Or maybe after I sign off, you can leave a comment in the chat, in the comment section. Dreams are significant. We can see a whole new world with dreams, just like a choreographer, a dancer, a musician, a painter, a sculptor, one who draws, creating a whole nother world around yourself, creating healing, moments of healing. Sometimes art is therapeutic. Art in occupational therapy, putting a pen or pencil in someone's hand who couldn't write because maybe they have a stroke, that can practice writing and eventually maybe gain control of the muscles and the nerves and the impulses and now are able to draw again or write again. All these things can be taken into consideration, and they should be. If there are no questions, I just might sign out early. One of the things I want to let you know, though, is that you will always improve. You will always improve in the way that you need to for you, and this will empower you to have a better life for yourself, empower you to make decisions. So, what I would like to do before I sign off is, if there are no questions, maybe I'm trying to think of something else that I could talk about. How about if I give you a guided meditation? A guided meditation where you are in your mind calling up a place that you have some awareness about, a place that may lend healing, the experience of healing to you. Maybe it's a place where you meet up with Reiki masters, massage therapist masters, chiropractic masters, masters of aromatherapy, herbs, master of crystals. But you're allowing yourself to go in that direction to see what you need to see. So you begin to breathe deeply and you begin to relax into this mode where you can see everything around you. Not everything appears to be far away because it's an illusion. We're just trained to see something that is supposed to feel far away, and it is when we start driving. Some people say underneath the dome, but we're able to make it through, and life is exchanging energy with us. So, while you're breathing deeply, I want you to go into your heart. You have a physical remembrance of what is a heart. As you do that, begin to relax deeply, as if you're suspending time. Stay relaxed and at a deeper level with yourself. Say or think these words: no matter what, I am safe and secure and sound within myself. No matter what, I will live a greater version of myself in every moment. You just know that beauty and harmony exist where you are, where you feel and understand that all shall be well. You use your breath to ride on the winds of change, but the winds of acknowledgement, the winds of forgiveness, the winds of grace, and you just know that you will have arrived through your heart center. You have arrived where you become one, where you are able to feel a thought long before you release it. And as someone releases thoughts toward you, you automatically interpret who it is. You discover it, you know. Just relax. And as you relax, know that all will be well. Every part of your life will begin to become whole and complete, and every part of your life will be such where you know where the truth lies within you. And I'll say this: allow yourself to find the truths of yourself. My grace is your grace. Until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we are alive and well in the age of remembrance. See you soon. And again, if you have any questions about my upcoming live online, February the 1st, it begins of 2023, you need to contact me as soon as possible. Say in your subject line, the key to life is numerology. Count me in. How do I sign up so I can give you all of the details? That will be very important. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off. It's a late night for me. I had a long day, and I'm going to catch some snap and sleep. Remember that divine grace is a blessing as we're alive and well in the age of remembrance. See you again. Might come on tomorrow night. Who knows?